this one is a Populus alba, and I'm sorry for all the wind. It's out of my control. It's known as the white poplar or the silver poplar. I'm up about 25-30 feet in the air right now. You get the name from these leaves. So you look at the one side leaf, you get this bright green, the other side's this white color. Really cool tree. I'll have to show some more of it from the ground. Really windy out. I forgot to talk a little bit more about this tree over here. We've got our white poplar, Populus alba, and this was the one I was climbing the other day. So it doesn't look that big on the camera, but as we get a little closer, I mean, that trunk grows really fast. These trees do get pretty big pretty quick. They're fast at growing, and I mean, for a poplar, I'm not a huge fan of poplars in general, but this one, usually when they get this large, they usually have a lot of adverse health effects. This one is actually in pretty good shape. We have some cabling going on up here. You can see one of the cables right here, and that's just to help support this branch. I mean, there's a lot of weight coming out on this guy over here. It doesn't look like it, but from here to about right there, that's 20 feet. It's just a very large horizontal limb there. We've got 3 cables in this one, and anyway, it's just a very large tree. One of the really cool characteristics of this particular tree is it starts off with this white bark, and as the bark matures and the tree gets larger, you get this dark, very rigid with deep furrowed bark. So very cool specimen for that. Another thing, kind of in between this phase here, this end phase, and this phase up here, is you get these diamond shapes to the bark here. We zoom in here, so you can see where it's starting to split. You get this little diamond shape, and that's a very unique characteristic to this tree alone that I'm aware of. Oh, there's a close-up. So again, and here's what I was pointing out from inside the tree, and this is what gives it its name. So you have this very waxy looking leaf, and they're very thick leaves too. That's just a poplar leaf style. But you have this thick waxy green leaf on one side. You flip it over on the back or the bottom of the leaf, and it's this white color that you get. This one has been maintained fairly well. We can see some fairly recent cuts, and this is a fun tree to climb. So this is it from the bottom. Now here's one of the things that I don't particularly enjoy about this tree, is it's very brittle. I mean, it just snaps right off. And when you're climbing, when a large branch like that just snaps, you don't really have any heads up. It just goes and you fall with it. So you need to make sure that when you're tying into poplars in general, especially things like willows too, you need to make sure you're tying into very large. My battery died while I was out filming that tree. So the last little piece I was trying to get at there was, when you're climbing trees, it's really important to know what kind of tree you're dealing with. Just knowing the tree you're climbing is really important. Every tree just has a different dynamic. Some trees will just snap, others will have a little bit of bend before they give on the branches, and knowing how every tree reacts to different weights and how large of branches you need to be able to tie into, it makes a big difference. I'll tie in, and I say this all the time, I'll tie into a very small branch when when I'm climbing like a honey locust. But if I'm climbing something like a willow or poplar, I make sure that my tie-in point's a little bit larger. And it just comes down to knowing what kind of tree you're climbing.